look at your bullet journal blank page and think, how should I divide it? Do I want a space? Do I not want a space? Do I want boxes? How is this gonna work? And just get a little overwhelmed. That was me, and before I found a grid spacing guide, I had a lot of trouble dividing my page. I spent way too much time erasing everything, and this hack solves it. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Caitlin if you are new here. Today I'm going to be walking you through what a grid spacing guide is, why you should use a grid spacing guide, and the different ways to set it up and use it in your bullet journal. So for me, a grid spacing guide is all about efficiency. I don't want to spend brain power thinking about how many dots I need to count down the page. I don't want to spend time even counting that down the page. So it's all about making things quick and easy and more fun for bullet journaling so I can actually get to the important things, which is planning out my daily tasks. The first bullet journal guide that I'm going to be showing you is the basic method. And this is the one that I first started off with myself. Going across the page, I'm just counting out how many spaces there are horizontally. And for the journal that I'm using, it is 26 dots across. Now, my journal might be a little bit different than yours, but you're gonna be able to follow the same processes and same steps for this, so just keep going with whatever your journal is. If it's 40 across, it's 40 across. Looking at that page horizontally, you're gonna wanna divide it into two. That is gonna give you 13 dots and then 13 dots. That is dividing your page in half. So if you ever thought about having spreads where you have a left and right side on one page, you're able to quickly divide it. And then you can go through and do this for every other size that you can think of, maybe dividing it into thirds or into quarters, into sixths, however much you think you are going to need to divide your page into. For this, I would recommend seeing the spreads that you already are currently using in your bullet journal. Do you like to have boxes that have a space in between them? Do you like to have boxes that are connected together by one line? It will change the dimensions of what your lines are going to look like. So for example, for my page being divided into quarters, I have every 6 dots when it's without a break. If there is a break and a gap in between my boxes, it's going to be every 5 dots instead. So that's just something you need to keep in mind. Number 2 is going to be, I'm going to show you, if you don't like the look of lines, you can always use a box instead. And that breaks it up a little bit easier visually, just for you to see what's going on the page. So we're going to be doing the same thing, except I'm going to be showing you how to do this vertically instead. For my page that I'm using in my Archer and Olive journal, it's an A5 journal. I absolutely love it. If you are interested in getting one yourself, you can always use the discount code CreateWithCait 10, and that gets you 10% off at checkout. But the grid sheet that I'm going to be using is going to be 36 dots down. I'm going to go through the same steps, dividing it into 2, into thirds, into fourths, all of that throughout however many I think that I need. But not all of the numbers are going to fit nice within 38. For example, dividing the page into 4 doesn't fit into 38. So what you have to do is get the closest number. It's going to give me about 9 dots. That's how I plan out every single different spacing as I go through, and then adjust the space either at the top or bottom of the page to make sure that the information that I have is just centered in the middle of the page. Number 3 is a combination of those two. I would recommend, if you are setting this up at the very beginning of your bullet journal, to have it on the left side of the page. It's going to make it a little bit easier for you to reference when you're making your spreads throughout your book in the future. But what I showed you right now has 2 pages, a left and a right side. One for horizontal, one for vertical. So you just gotta smush it together on one page. It can get a little messy looking if you don't do it right, in my opinion at least. So what I like to do is color code things because it makes the lines stand out a little bit better. And what I like to do is just only use a line versus the box method that I showed you before. It's just going to make it look a little bit nicer and easier for you to use. The 4th different type of grid layout that I like to use, and maybe you want to do too, is if you use similar items, blocks, categories throughout your journal setup. For me, I am a sucker for using the mini calendar in my weekly spreads, and I know that off by heart is 7 dots by 7 dots because I use it so much. But there's other things that you could maybe want to include in there. Things like if you create a 2-page monthly calendar layout, you're going to want to know how many dots by how many dots down am I going to want to create those boxes. Maybe you have a stats tracker or a meal planner, those things that you constantly are going to be using. You can do it how I did here, where I'm drawing out a visual, or you can just write down the sizes with a quick little jot reference. The other spread idea that kind of goes a little along with this is just having your favorite weekly layouts, monthly layouts, spread layouts really, on a page as well. I had a whole bunch of different weeklies set out in my bullet journal, things that I'm going to reference a lot. I just drew out a page, not to size, it doesn't have to look perfect, and ended up drawing in a couple of reference boxes. Inside those boxes, I labeled it A, B, C, D, whatever letter you like, and then I put next to the legend at the bottom of my page what A represented. So one of the boxes that I have is going to be going horizontally across my page, 12 boxes across, and then however many I wanted up. For this example, I just had 4 different layouts put out, but you can always shrink these layouts into a smaller reference box and fit more on the page. Okay, I like the idea of the spread. I would rather it at the beginning of my journal, but I've already used my journal and I can't put it on the first page. Or maybe you want something else on the first page. What you can always do to get around this is to have the piece of paper, your grid spacing guide, just be a separate piece of paper. It doesn't have to be included in your journal at all. You can take it out whenever you need to, or number 5, which I'm going to be showing you as a different grid spacing guide template, is to have flip outs. And how I created this is I just actually took a little piece of paper out from the back of my book. You can also make this a little bit easier for yourself and have a notepad. I like using the Archer and Olive ones because it just matches the journal that I have. What I do is I ended up using the block method, and I just skinnied up those lines a little bit for both the horizontal and the vertical on the same page. Now, it might look a little weird, but we're gonna cut them out. What I ended up doing was cutting out about 3 to 4 dots away from that last line. Once it's cut out, I lay them on both the left side and the top part of my book, and either tape it in, glue it in, or use washi tape so you can remove it from this book and maybe use it in a future bullet journal. You only gotta set it up once, nice and easy. When you're referencing a page, you just flip out those little tabs, flip to the bullet journal section that you wanna start sketching out all of your pages for. Number 6, this is my favorite one. So if you're debating on what to try in your bullet journal, try this one. This one's the best. I'm a little biased. It works great for me. It is also really quick and easy to set up. It is easy to reference, use, and pull out and use directly on your page. All of the other bullet journal grid spacing guides I've loved, I've used before. This is the one that just works the best for me. What you do is you have a piece of paper, and we're going to be creating tick marks on our journal. Now, it might look a little weird, but we're going to come in and color code and label this just to make it a little bit easier for our brains to register what's going on this little bookmark. Once it's all color coded in and cut out, I'm going to be folding it in half and just taping it together with my crafter's tape. This is going to just make it a little bit thicker and durable for use in the future. Now, how I use this specifically when setting up spreads in my bullet journal is it just comes out from the back of my book, and then I lay it down on the page. Because I can lay it down on the page, it makes it easier and quicker for me to tick off exactly where I want the half, the quarter, the third to end up going on my page. Whatever grid space that you end up using in your bullet journal, they all function the same way. Here's just a quick little example of how I would use the grid spacing guide to create a weekly. I'm going to use my bookmark, and I know that I want to create 8 equal boxes. I need to divide the page into 2 horizontally and then 4 vertically. So I can use those references that we did with the cheat sheet just to tick them off really quick, create my boxes in either pencil, maybe pen if you're feeling a little confident with it right off the bat, and easy peasy add in things like headers, monthly calendars, whatever you want to finish off the page. I hope this was helpful in breaking down what a grid spacing guide is, the different ways to set it up, and the different ways to use it. If you do have any questions though, just leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to get back to you and help you a little bit more on your bullet journal journey. Make sure to stay tuned for next week, and you can be notified by hitting that subscribe button, where I'm going to be walking you through how to set up a bullet journal in the middle of the year. But that is really it. I'll see you next week. Bye!